So, namaskar everybody. My name is Apurva, and I, along with Radha, who's our co-host for today, are gonna conduct this online meditation and self-development session. We're part of a group called Vistara Circle. So we're a group of friends who decided to start this group because we have been meditating for a few years and meditation really helped us. So we decided to share meditation and self-development tips to anybody else who's interested. So our Sunday evenings.
Sorry, Apurva, go ahead. I'll just chime in after you.
Go for it, Radha. Go for it.
I just wanted to say it's also that we understand the importance of community. It's really hard to sustain the motivation to continue meditating and developing this new habit if you don't have the support of other people. And so we're a group of friends who care about meditation, but we also really care about community and making sure that you feel supported, that you have a place that you can come and talk about these things that maybe there's nobody else in your life that you can talk with about. So we're also providing that space for you.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Definitely. Very true. Thank you for sharing that point, Radha. Yes, for me, like it's always been the community that's kept me inspired and encouraged. Definitely. So I'll start with the announcements. Oops, there we go. That's my announcements. So if you're viewing this session on YouTube or Facebook Live, I'd invite you to join to our Zoom session directly so that you can be part of our discussion real time. And also, if you're part of the Zoom conversation, then you get entered in our email list automatically so that you get notifications for upcoming events. So please do so if you'd like. Have a cushion or a blanket handy so that you're comfortable during meditation. Turn off whatever distractions you can. And if you feel like it, you can unmute your mic and announce yourself. Maybe tell us how many times you've been here. Lastly, you can also share with me right now or later about if there are any other topics, any suggestions you'd like for us that we can discuss in the future.
I can start because you mentioned me, but I just want to properly introduce myself. Namaskar, that's a Sanskrit greeting that means I salute the divinity within you. It's also within me, with all the divine charms of my mind and all the love in my heart. So my name is Radha. I am over here in California representing the West Coast. We have our West Coast, East Coast action happening with Vistara Circle right now. And I'm just super excited to be here with all of you on Zoom and also those of you who are watching on YouTube or Facebook.
Thank you, Radha.
Hey, Radha. This is Charles. For the uninitiated, I am back for the first time. Yeah, I took a little break there, but it's great to be back fellowshipping with all of you. I'm also on the West Coast in California, so a lot going on, but at the same time, it's nice to get back to basics. Yeah, just looking forward to rejoining the group here. Thank you.
So great to see you, Charles.
Likewise.
Nice to have you, Charles.
Hi, Apurv. Great to see you.
Namaskar. Myself, Sneha. I'm Apurva's wife. And good to have you all here. Hope you will like our program. And I'm attending this session for the first time. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, do we have anybody on YouTube or Facebook saying hi? Okay. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and read out to you guys about our viewers. I think this is Facebook. So we have Graciela. She's with us on Facebook. So yeah, we've sent her the link. Graciela, if you'd like, you can join us on Zoom. Nice to have you. Okay, so I'm going to start with the agenda for today. We're going to start off with Kirtan, which is spiritual chanting. We'll do that for about 5 minutes, followed by guided meditation for about 5 to 7 minutes, after which we'll do silent meditation for 10 minutes. And I'll explain to you guys about what Kirtan is, about how the guided meditation is going to work as we go through these sections. So after the meditation bit, we will do the reading where I'll present this self-development topic for the night. Today, we're going to discuss how to enhance focus. And this topic is based on Charles Duhigg's award-winning book, Smarter, Faster, Better. So over the past 3 sessions, we've discussed different chapters out of Charles Duhigg's book. And this book, it contains lots of really interesting insights on how our minds work and how can we use them for our advantage, so that we can not only get more work done, but also so that we can derive more meaning through our everyday things, right? Because at the end of the day, it's good to get work done, but it's even better if we find meaning, if we find more meaning in whatever we do. Right, so that's our discussion. Our reading or presentation for today is going to be how to enhance focus, followed by discussion about the same and announcements. I see we have a new attendee, Leah. Welcome, Leah. So Baba Nam Kevalam is going to be our kirtan that we're going to use today. It's a universal kirtan or spiritual chant. And the reason why we're going to do kirtan or spiritual singing is because it's a very old technique that's been used by pretty old cultures from separate parts of the world. And there are certain scientifically proven, psychologically beneficial advantages to spiritual chanting. Right? So when we sing something, we engage our minds and our bodies, right? When we sing, we can't do much. Like we can drive or we can do small tasks, but we're pretty focused on whatever we're singing, right? And when we sing something repeatedly, we start seeping our mind into the meaning of whatever we're singing. So here, a psychologically proven technique that helps our mind, which is known as autosuggestion, comes into play. So when using our minds, when we sing something, either silently just within our minds or actually vocally, we're generating this lyric, right? We're singing it, and as we sing it, we're ascribing a meaning to this lyric. And as we ascribe a meaning to that lyric, we're also witnessing it, right? Because we can hear either through our ears or within us mentally, we also witness the meaning of what we're singing. So we not only express that meaning, but we also witness it. So this whole circle of autosuggestion comes into play, and slowly our minds can relate more and more with that meaning of that kirtan. And this kirtan, Baba Nam Kevalam, it has a couple of meanings depending on whichever one resonates more closely with you or your circumstance. Right. So for the first meaning could be only the feeling of infinite love. And another meaning, which is just as beautiful in my opinion, is supreme consciousness is all there is. So you can choose whichever meaning that you can more closely relate with. And as you sing this kirtan, I invite you to feel that meaning within your hearts and your minds. And I'm gonna mute you, and I'm gonna turn off your camera, and I'm gonna play this kirtan for you, so you'll have some beats to sing to, and we'll keep on doing that for about 5 minutes. After which we'll start the guided meditation. And for me, this kirtan, it's not really like a warm-up to my meditation, but to me, it's really like my first step of my meditation. Because as I start singing, I start resonating more and more closely with that meaning, right? So once I stop singing or once I stop listening to that kirtan, I already have a beautiful state of mind in which I begin my silent meditations. So with that said, I'm gonna play the kirtan for you now. And I'm gonna, once the kirtan's over, I'm gonna start the guided meditation for you.
Baba Nam Kevala Baba Namo Kevala Kevalam Baba Nam Kevalam Baba Nam Kevalam Baba Namo Kevalam Baba Nam Kevalam Baba Nam Kevalam Baba Nam Kevalam Baba Nam Kevalam Kevalam Baba Nam Kevalam Baba Nam Kevalam Baba Nam Kevalam.
Sit comfortably on a cushion. Interlace your fingers and place your hands on your lap. Monitor your lower back and make sure your lower back is straight. Monitor your upper back. Also make sure it's straight. Start by focusing on your breathing. Imagine your belly is like a balloon filling with air. So when you inhale, the balloon expands. As you exhale, let all of the air out in a smooth and steady way. Feel the abdominal area expand 360 degrees as you breathe in and allow the exhalations to be longer than the inhalations. Feel your body and mind relax with each exhalation. With each exhalation, feel that you are moving deeper and deeper within yourself. Breathe in and breathe out, letting go of the outside world and also your body. Breathe in and breathe out, letting go of your thoughts and only focusing on your essence. Breathe in and breathe out until you feel that you're only consciousness. Allow this subtle feeling to be represented by a beautiful point of light, like a star in the black sky at night. Imagine the point is located between your eyebrows. Do your best to focus on that point and be drawn to your own consciousness. Feel captivated by this point of light. Concentrate and gaze into this point. This point of light represents your most subtle self. This is really you if you were only consciousness. Now, imagine you're inside this point, surrounded by the love of the universe. Feel this love and the light it brings surround you from all over. And as you contemplate the universe, start to get an image of the Supreme Consciousness or infinite love. Think about what the mantra Bhavanam Kevalam means. It means the Supreme Consciousness is all there is, or only the feeling of infinite love. Continue imagining the Supreme Consciousness or the infinite love. Feel the Supreme Consciousness or the infinite love as the core of your subtle being. With these thoughts and feelings, begin to repeat the mantra Baba Nam Kevalam, connecting more and more to the Supreme Consciousness or infinite love. If you'd like, you can breathe in, saying silently to yourself, Baba Nam, and breathe out, saying Kevalam. And you can continue repeating this mantra for the rest of your meditation. And if any thoughts or distractions come in your mind, just let them pass. Let them go like birds flying across the sky. And you just come back to focusing on the mantra and its meaning. Because as you think, so you become. So the more you repeat this mantra, the more you in Supreme Consciousness or infinite love will become one. I'll let you know when the silent meditation is supposed to end. Until then, you can just continue focusing on your breath and the mantra. Namaskar. Bhavanam Kevalam Bhavanamo Kevalam Bhavanam Kevalam Bhavanam Kevalam Bhavanam Kevalam. I hope this kirtan and the meaning and the feeling that it brings helped you through your meditation. Whenever you're ready, gently bring back your awareness to yourself, back to those thoughts, some of which might be waiting for you. Know that throughout your meditation and now, you are meditating along with the Supreme Consciousness or the Infinite Love and the rest of us that are in this session right now. So mentally, give everybody a namaskar. And whenever you're ready, you can come back and turn on your videos if you feel like. In a minute, I'm gonna start talking about our self-development topic for the day. How to enhance focus. Before we talk about strategies for enhancing focus, let's just quickly discuss what we really mean by focus. What does focus mean to us? The author, Charles Duhigg, uses this really interesting analogy to focus. He thinks of focus as a stream of light. And for now, let's just assume that it feels and looks like a spotlight. So this is focus. And what happens when we're focused? When we focus, we're able to concentrate on tasks. But why do we really need to concentrate on tasks, right? Why can't we just work on tasks without having to concentrate on them? So it's true, some tasks we can work on without really having to focus. Like if it's something that we're really used to doing, we've done over and over again, like if it's like brushing our teeth, right? We don't really need to focus on it. Though sometimes we might have to if we have a cavity, right? But other tasks that we do every day for work, let's say for work, or if we are like maybe cooking some intricate dish, that might need concentration, right? Because if we don't pay attention, we might miss certain steps, right? And what happens when we lose our concentration? When we actually are concentrated, we also tune out distractions, right? And these distractions, they actually can cause us to lose our concentration. And when we successfully tune out distractions, we're able to remember all of these intricate subtasks that are needed for completing whatever task we're about to complete, right? So when we're not distracted, we don't forget any of these other intricate subtasks. So finally, for me, I need focus, I can concentrate, and I can sequentially, systematically work on all these simple, I shouldn't say simple, but several minor subtasks that together form one giant task, right? And this is a pretty simplistic explanation of why we need focus and what focus means to me. And later we're gonna discuss what are the different things that go along in our mind that help us stay focused, and sometimes they actually also go against us feeling focused. So let's discuss how we lose focus, right? So couple of slides ago, we thought of focus as a spotlight, right? As a strong, bright spotlight. But we don't always feel focused in the same way. Sometimes for us, focus might be like this delicate flame, like the flame in the steel lamp that I have right here, right? And I might have to be really gentle with it and take care of it, because if I don't, the flame might go away, right? And this can be an example of a task that I'm not really feeling motivated towards working on, or it can be something that I'm really motivated towards working on, but that's just really difficult, right? So like in my case, a few years ago when I decided to learn programming, I was really motivated, but it was just such an arduous task that I had to be very careful with my focus, because this little flame of my mind, I had to gently always protect. So according to the author, a very important ingredient that helps us focus is psychological and creative safety. Because when we psychologically and creatively feel safe, we're able to apply our mental faculties and also our personal faculties towards that task, right? Because some tasks, they might need more of our mind. Others might need more of our heart, maybe like singing Kirtan. Not sure how I sounded when I sang that Kirtan, but I tried to focus when I sang it. Right? So we need to feel psychologically and creatively safe when we apply ourselves towards something. Certain tasks, maybe like, I don't know, like putting together furniture, like in the United States or in some parts of the world, you can buy furniture from stores that ship parts to you, and you can put them together yourself, right? So these things you need to be focused on, because if you're not paying attention, you might drop something or you might break something, right? So you need to be psychologically, you need to feel psychologically and creatively safe to be able to focus and to get things done. And of course, along with this, you also need the ability to work on something, right? Because just feeling psychologically and creatively safe isn't enough. Let's think about how can focus be detrimental to us though, right? That sounds a bit counterintuitive, but oftentimes, at least speaking for myself, I've felt like, this laser show of lights where my mind is definitely all over the place. I feel like, working on 20 things at the same time. And sometimes I actually might even be successful in doing so. Like I might feel like, oh, I've been so busy for like these past few hours, or maybe I worked so hard, through the whole day. It's evening now and I worked on so many things and I feel so tired now. But when I look back, I'm not sure what I worked on. I feel like, I didn't really get too much done. Like I got a lot of things done, but together they didn't really contribute towards, I don't know, towards my end goal. And the author has a couple of really interesting reasons as to why we feel burnt out, right? Like at work or at home, like we might, do a lot of things. We might be busy all day, tired all day, but why do we still end up not actually getting meaningful work done? So reason number one that the author has, after researching and studying with scientists and neuroscientists, they've come up with this term called cognitive tunneling. So they noticed in the minds of individuals that they studied that their minds showed a pattern, and this pattern these scientists decide to call cognitive tunneling. So it's kind of what it sounds like. Cognitive tunneling where your mind sort of senses a light somewhere in one of the tunnels, and when it senses that light, it starts moving towards it. So by that I mean your mind in some way is always looking out for distractions. Like when you're about to work on something or when you are working on something, our minds have a tendency to constantly scan for other things that it could apply itself towards. And the scientists, they had a reason for this. They said that this tendency of our mind, cognitive tunneling, where our minds continuously scan for lights that that they're looking for and that they start running towards, is what helped our ancestors like several thousands of years ago survive. Like back then, in a time before internet and smartphones that spoke to you and cars that try to drive themselves, people actually did things themselves. Like they went out, maybe worked in the field, cultivated crops or fruit, or maybe went hunting. Maybe they had to transport like rocks to build a house, or they had to transport water over a long distance. So when they did these things, their mind, it had to be pretty alert because it needed to continuously scan for maybe, like, let's say, dangerous animals, maybe the scorching sun, right? And if their minds weren't alert enough, they'd like just keep walking for hours, lose their last watering hole, and then run out of water. And that could have been fatal for them. So back then, cognitive tunneling seemed to work out in our favor towards evolution. But right now, it goes against us because, when you translate the same tendency at home, like, with internet and with all these modern so-called productivity tools, this mindset actually leads to us feeling distracted. And that is why we think and we actually do work on several of these micro tasks, but when you take all of them together, they don't really amount to anything significant. And as we discussed, this is an evolutionary tactic, and it's genetic. It's a neural tendency of the mind. So this was reason number one of how focus oftentimes goes against us. Reason number two is reactive thinking. And kind of like this picture on the right, it's kind of like, once we mix these two solutions together, the whole process is not in our controls anymore. Like these liquids, they're gonna react and just do whatever they're supposed to do. So our minds, they behave similarly, and that's because of thinking reactively. And this is affected by the distractions around us. So contrasting with cognitive thinking, which was a survival tactic that was created by our minds for our survival, reactive thinking is a product of our busy modern lifestyles. Like we have, learned to think reactively because there's all of these gadgets, there's all of this oncoming signal and stimuli that is racing towards us. So instead of it being a genetic trait, unlike cognitive tunneling, reactive thinking is more of a psychological trait that we have learned unknowingly because of these so-called productivity tools around us, and just because of the modern environment that we live in. So for both of these mental tendencies, the author has given us a solution. He says if we use the solution, it can act as a buffer against cognitive tunneling and also against reactive thinking. So before we start talking about that, I just wanted to share this photo, which looks pretty cool in my opinion. And I'd like to explain how this photo to me relates about focus, right? So over here, if you can see, there's a needle in the middle of this circle, and the circle is really like 2,000 to 3,000 mirrors that reflect the light of the sun onto this tower. And throughout the day, these mirrors, they align themselves like automatically so that they're always concentrating and reflecting the light of the sun on this tower. And then this tower stores the sunlight, generates electricity that's enough to like power about 8,000 homes for a day. So this is an actual unit developed in like the 80s in the Mojave Desert in California, and it's called Solar 2. So this whole location successfully generated electricity for like, I think 20 years, and then they converted it to become a telescope. So when I was looking for focus and concentration, Google showed me this image, which I thought was interesting. And I think it's similar to one of the techniques that the author tells us about, how we can harness these seemingly several distractions around us, and how we can articulate them towards our advantage. So the author suggests we create mental models. And if you had a chance to attend our sessions over the last few weeks, or maybe watch them online, you could relate with what we're just about to discuss. So these mental models sort of echo the whys of engaging in tasks that we've been discussing over the past few weeks. So and that thinking of the why, author calls it creating mental models. So the author suggests before we're about to do a task, he suggests we imagine ourselves working on that task. And the author suggests creating like an extremely detailed, high resolution movie where we're watching ourselves work on that task. And as we're visualizing, the author also encourages us to be realistic, right? So as we're working, he encourages us to not only visualize ourselves successfully working on that task, but he also encourages us to think about the possible distractions that might arise, that might detract you from finishing that task. And then he also tells you to imagine a way out of those distractions in as much of a high resolution detail as the actual task where you're gonna finish it successfully. So a picture that I thought showed that pretty nicely. And I think as children, we do this. Like as children, I feel like we have a sort of an idea. Like if it's something that we've done already, we have a sort of an idea as to, hey, this is what I'm gonna do when I get there. This is the ride I'm gonna sit on when I get to the park, or this is what I'm gonna show my relative or get from them when I go see them. Because they're sort of, in the present or like preparing for that present. And unlike adults, they're not all distracted with either cognitive tunneling or reactive thinking, right? So when we're gripped by cognitive tunneling, I think of it as us being sort of anxious of the future. So we're always thinking of what might arise. So we're too distracted by that. And for me, reactive thinking to me sounds like us being sort of gripped by the past. So something that happened in the near past, maybe a few minutes ago or a few hours ago, that's caused a reaction in me. And that's, affected my behavior right now. But kids aren't that way. They're in the present and they have a mental model of what they want to do. And more often than not, they're able to do it. And if they're not able to do it, they learn something new, right? And that's how really kids learn the ways of the world, and they learn about themselves. So how do mental models really help us psychologically speaking? When we use mental models, they help us mentally and emotionally go through the hurdles, in our head about the task. And psychologically speaking, when these scientists, when they studied people who imagined them finishing the task before they actually did finish the task, it had a similar effect on their minds as to actually practicing doing that task. So let's say you practice doing something for 10 times. Like let's say you practice making this dish 10 times, you've made it already. So you're pretty confident in yourself that you're going to be able to make it now, right? So if you were to visualize yourself being able to make it just as many times, you would actually feel just as prepared as if you actually did practice it. So somehow, when we think and imagine and feel ourselves do something with high resolution detail, we actually feel more confident doing it when we actually do it. And why does that happen? That's because we mentally prepare ourselves for the success and also for the obstacles that we're going to meet along that path, right? So again, we need to be realistic in our visualization. And if we are, we mentally prepare ourselves for all the hurdles and also for success. Now, again, speaking for myself, I've noticed very often I get derailed, or like I lose my mental balance when I'm confronted with success. And it can be a minor success or it can be a major success, right? So maybe it's this big presentation at work and I've already prepared for it. I've already done the work and it's going well. And, because I get so excited internally, or like because I get so derailed internally, at the end, I might lose track of my own thoughts. That's because I didn't really visualize myself being successful. So when I am successful, I don't know what to do with all of that euphoria and all of that energy. So when we actually do use mental models, we prepare ourselves not only mentally, but also emotionally, so that when we actually are confronted with success, we don't lose ourselves. We still keep going through, we still keep trudging along, and we get the thing done. And the same goes for detractors too. Very often when we face an obstacle, we might mentally be prepared to face it, but emotionally we might not be prepared to face it. So when something happens, maybe let's say when a colleague doesn't really respond to us the way we expected when we asked for help, we feel like, oh, I don't know, how did they do this to me? I helped them last time, and when I asked them for help, this is how they react. And that sends us, into this circle of reactive thinking, and we lose our center, right? And then we lose our focus, which was actually getting that thing done. And we start going in these loops. Again, speaking for myself, I found myself to chase my own tail, going through these loops. So when I do use mental models, I create a buffer against these things. I strengthen myself not only mentally, but also emotionally, so that I'm not trapped by cognitive thinking, cognitive tunneling, or reactive thinking. And of course, philosophically speaking, this sounds to me like the law of attraction, right? Like if I think of something over and over again, again, being realistic about it, I attract it, right? I become what I think. So mental models is what Charles Duhigg suggested as an antidote to cognitive tunneling or reactive thinking. And I feel like sometimes, again, as kids, I'm sure we all have used it, maybe also as adults. So I'd like to hear from you if there are any experiences you have about using mental models or about being focused and how focus helped you or maybe didn't help you.
Thank you, Apurv. I just was thinking about how strong the mind is. I mean, I know it, but just again, hearing that statistic of if you think of how to prepare a certain dish 10 times in your mind, it's just as effective as if you actually prepare the dish 10 times in real life with your hands. Yeah, you know, the mind is just really powerful. And I know that, and that's also the basis of the meditation that we do. It's why we focus on love as opposed to hate or, I don't know, greed or whatever. So yeah, I just appreciate that reminder. And I can say that for me, I'm not very good at multitasking. You know, I can't really. If I have to be focused on one thing at a time, otherwise I don't get anything done. I just can't do a million things at once. So yeah, it's what I have to add.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Definitely, multitasking doesn't work for me either. And the author agrees too. In another chapter, he's actually suggested that we not multitask. And like I call multitasking like microtasking, when we can actually do multitask, but again on like small things like brushing your teeth and also thinking about, I guess, what you're gonna wear that day. But that's the extent of it. Like when you're actually doing something very meaningful that involves all of you, yeah, like maybe singing Kirtan, like you can't really multitask. I agree. Yep. And I also like the author's point about being detailed but also realistic, because speaking for myself, I have read about the power of positive visualizations, and I have fallen into the trap of visualizing positively, but because I was in a rush or because I wasn't really as invested in it mentally, I did it, but not in too much detail or it wasn't too realistic, and that's when it didn't work for me. So the author also, I'm glad he mentioned those two things, and I think they make sense. They work for me so far.
I think it's also, and I'd love to hear from everybody else too. I think it's also, there's a difference between visualizing and magical thinking. You know, it's like I may visualize myself becoming a professional ballerina, but I don't actually dance on point. So like it's not going to happen. Like in order to be a professional ballerina, I'd have to actually start with dancing on point. I can't just say I'm going to visualize it and then I'm going to become a professional ballerina. That's not going to happen.
Definitely. Yeah. So we have a comment from YouTube by Argent. I hope I'm saying your name right, but they're saying they've used visualization, I think, for practicing scales and chords for their guitar playing, and they've envisioned themselves playing on stage successfully. So yeah, definitely. Thank you for sharing that. I think playing on stage is much more than creating music. It's also connecting with people, and I think that does come with practice, but also with visualization, because you don't always get to practice playing on stage, because if you're just about to begin, you can't really practice that. So you need to start somewhere, and visualizing is a good first step for that.
Apurv, this is Charles. Not able to turn on my camera, but I do want to share. I appreciate what stood out to me in your presentation was the point about how we do use those mental models as children. I definitely recall, like, because I got into sports at age 4 in several different sports. So that was something that I definitely would, would visualize in my head, me being successful, and that, tended to play out well. Now, I played softball yesterday for the first time in 4 months because I had injured my knee, and I was rusty to say the least, and I hadn't been, visualizing or doing any of those things in my head, so it just kind of fell apart. My mind-body connection just wasn't there. So yeah, that resonated with me. And I'm one of the people that has a lot of trouble focusing. I have to really like be mindful, like very I don't know. I'm searching for the right word. Intentional, excuse me, intentional about focusing on the same task for several hours. I do some programming similar to you, so that it's interesting, but it can be tedious. You just need to be, you need to be there for it. So I appreciate those points you shared.
I'm glad. Thank you, Charles. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think it's the same for me too. And I've learned kind of like how Radha shared, right? I've learned my own limits, let's say, or tendencies too. Like for me, yeah, I can't multitask, and I do have to like intentionally work on, like making my head like point in a certain direction. And I also do need to take breaks. Like I take like breaks like after like 20-30 minutes, every 20-30 minutes. And if it's a phone call, if it's like a meeting, I can't take breaks. But then at the end of it, I try to not work on something for at least 5-10 minutes. I've learned that helps me. And my phone's always like on do not disturb through this. So yeah, whatever helps you. And I think the author has a few more suggestions too in the following chapter. So about how to continue being focused. So we'll discuss those in the future. Arjit, again from YouTube, shared, yeah, this is a really great comment they shared. They said the main portion of the law of attraction is action. I agree. Thank you for sharing that. Definitely. Yep.
Namaskar, I'm Sneha, and I also want to share that today morning I was learning driving. I'm new in US, and Apurv is teaching me how to drive. So at that time, I realized how important focus is, because I think that's a very important base for all of us to create properly and just be focused while doing anything, especially the new things we are trying or practicing. So that time I realized how meditation helps us to maintain the focus and to be uh, more more into the things what we are doing. And yes, we can dedicate our attention towards that. So yeah, meditation helps to focus. That's all for me. Namaskar.
Thank you for sharing that. I hope I didn't distract you too much while you were trying to focus on the driving. Unless anybody else has anything to share, maybe we can move to the announcements. I think Sneha has another comment from social media. Okay, again, Argent again from YouTube shared, focus like a laser, relax like a sloth, eat like an ape, meditate like Baba. That's beautiful. And Baba is the infinite love within me. So I know a few of us like to refer to that infinite love or supreme consciousness as Baba. So thank you for sharing that, Arjun. So maybe Radha, over to you, unless anybody else has any.
Pop up the announcements for me.
I do.
So just a couple of things that are on here and some that are not on here. If you haven't already, check out our other programs. If you go to our website, vstarcircle.com, you can find a whole list of what we have going on during the week, not just on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. We haven't launched it yet, but I just want you to be aware that we have a fundraiser coming up. So keep your eyes peeled for emails from us about this. The funds that we collect pay for Zoom, pay for MailChimp, they pay for the plugins on our websites and for advertising and just a whole bunch of things. We're completely volunteer run, but we still need money to pay for web hosting, things like that. Also, next week, we're going to be discussing how Diwali can help you in being mindful. And lastly, we will not be meeting on Sunday, November 29th in honor of Thanksgiving. So you can go ahead and mark that off your calendar and not even worry about it. Just spend Thanksgiving however you're going to spend it. And we will be taking a break that Sunday and resuming the following Sunday.
Sounds great. Thank you, Radha. Thank you, everybody else. So unless anybody else had anything to share, I could call it a night. And I will see you guys next Sunday. Thanks everybody for joining us.
So much, everybody. Great to have you. So appreciate it. Deep namaskar.